Hello, everyone. My name is Mark from the Misplay Podcast, and you're listening to Eternal Journey, everyone's favorite Eternal podcast.
Welcome to Eternal Journey, the podcast.
Greetings, all my knights and Puntawans. You are listening to Eternal Journey, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this is episode 123 of the podcast, where we are saying farewell to a near and dear and beloved set, Cold Hunt. That's right, it's a sunset show. But first, I want to welcome my friends back on the show time and time again, starting off with the infamous John Holio. How you doing, friend?
What is up? Sunset
And
show hype.
sitting across from him on the interwebs is Darth Herman 2, the underscore, the Alex himself. What's up, buddy?
What is up, fellas? How's it going?
Going swell, my man. Going swell. All right. Before we jump into it real quick, I want to give some shout outs to some of the people that are hooking us up with some sweet spoiler action today. That's right. We're not only saying farewell to Cold Hunt, but we are welcoming in the new set called Unleashed. So, shout outs go to Ye Stout, Old Rich, Chastity Weaver, and the Jim Joe. So, Ye Stout and Old Rich, thank you guys so much for the spoilers today. Really do appreciate it. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Starting off with Old Rich, member of Eternal Journey, the team. Start off with theirs. Kind of interesting, right, John? Give a little backstory on it. They were actually looking forward to writing an article on it, and then decided, well, you know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and pass this one off to the podcast. So why don't you go ahead and break down Old Rich's spoiler for us, buddy?
Sure. Yeah, no matter how bad the card is, we're happy to have a spoiler. It's always fun to do these. So this one is kind of a weird one. It's a 0 cost spell, Injustice, 0 and a Justice. It's called Better Than Ever. And the text box reads, each unit you played this turn gets a random battle skill. And that's it. It's an uncommon. Yeah.
So
This is reminiscent of a card we'll talk about from this current set later called Keep Your Distance, where it's like the name is kind of like hilarious as far as the card effects go. It's like Better Than Ever on this like seemingly terrible card.
Yeah, and they have really liked putting these 0 cost spells in Justice, right? We've seen a couple in Fire, but really Justice is where they kind of found their home. And man, I don't like this card for limited for sure. And then when constructed, it's like, I think there's been one season where unseen battle skills matter kind of makes a difference. And the thing is like, how many creatures do you want to play for this card to be worth having in your deck, right? How many creatures in a turn do you want to play? Like 2, 3?
Yeah. It's not just that either, right? It's just like the randomness. It's like you want to, even if it's just, two units or whatever, you'd still just like probably want a very specific set of battle skills on it, and you're just rolling the dice. And it's like, every set that comes out, the pool of battle skills gets larger, and not necessarily better.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, look, you got unblockable on a flying unit, or reckless on an X1.
Right. So, yeah, like, I know we were talking about it before we started the show. It's like, I'm not sure if this will work like on Kira, for example. I'll try it when it comes out, but I don't think it will. The only other kind of, like you mentioned, the whole like unseen battle skills, it looks like there's going to be some unseen in this set. So maybe they're adding some additional support for that. The only other thing that really comes to mind is like, spell matters, kind of go wide stuff like Alessi or type decks, but like this just seems so extra for any of that. So I don't know if this will find a home. We'll see.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think I don't even think it's a win more card, just because, like you mentioned, the randomness, that aspect of it just kind of sets it up for failure, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I wish it was,
yeah.
a good draft card, but this is not. I mean, I'm sure someone will play it and it'll be
Do
good
you,
against us, right? It's gonna be one of those cards we lose to, but I don't think this is like the kind of card any of us are excited to play in draft.
I mean, do you think this card, do you think it would have been too much if they put like draw card on it? Each unit you play
Uh,
this turn gets random battle
yes,
skill plus draw card.
I kind of do because zero cost cantrips don't exist in Eternal, and it's like, you know, the game has a much higher mandatory number of cards in your deck, right? 75. So like literally you would just put this in any justice deck just to shrink the number of cards in your deck,
Mhm.
right? Just to add consistency. So like I think Direwolf is very careful about zero, putting a zero cost cantrip like in the game for that reason.
Gosh, man, yeah, you can even like use it with ambush units because it's a slow spell,
Right. I,
and
I
and
mentioned
then
that, the card that got put in the draft preview today, like the two cost unleash, like humbug, basically, like with
yeah.
ambush. It's like, yeah, it kind of works good with that card on your turn. It like you don't get to play that half of the card because it's like this spell for whatever reason is slow. Like this would be possibly interesting at fast, right? Like still very
Yeah,
niche, but it'd be interesting at least.
yeah, I don't know. I agree. I think it's gonna be very corner case, if that.
So looking forward
But
to losing to this one in draft.
I mean, I guess like you're gonna lose to it. Get out of here, bro. Overich, thank you again for the spoiler, my friend. You rock. Next up is courtesy of Yeast Out. This is Golden Horn Security. This is a 4/3 Minotaur mob for 3 Shadow. It has Unleash, which that's the one where it makes a copy that you discard at the end of your turn, right?
Right, yeah.
That's
When
the
you
new
when you
mechanic. Yep.
play this, it like creates and draws a copy of the card.
And then the copy has Unleash as well, right? They
Yes, yeah.
just took it. Yeah.
You can just chain them out for as much power you have available. Exactly.
When Golden Horn Security attacks with another Minotaur, so kind of a pseudo tandem attack effect, your Minotaurs get +1 attack this turn. That's interesting. They made it this turn.
Yeah, they
Like
just don't want a permanent
it,
buff going.
yeah, but it is asking a lot of you though, right? I mean, I think the card is still good. A 4/3 that makes a copy of itself later on, right? For 3 is always going to be good, even with the double pip. I just, man, like, because it's definitely pushing the Minotaur tribal, right? Because it specifically says, let me see something. When your attacks with another Minotaur. Okay, so it doesn't have to be. I guess I take that back. It doesn't. I did say pseudo tandem because you can attack with
Mhm.
3 Minotaurs and it's fine, or you can attack with 4 units, and as long as one other one is a Minotaur, then the Minotaurs themselves get a buff.
Yes.
But I don't know. I don't know if it would have been completely busted to make it permanent, right? The one where Revenge makes it permanent.
Yeah. I don't like. It could have been a little too much because like it's already kind of above rate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 4/3 for 3 is already like pretty nice.
Do
And
the
for
Unleash
6
copies?
power, you get 2 of these basically.
Do the Unleash have? So remind me, the Unleash cards, if you play them, they're permanent. You just discard them at the end of the turn if they're still in your hand, right?
Yeah, because each the last one you play still made a copy and put it in your hand, and then
Got you. Okay.
you just run out of power to play it, and then it just goes in your void at the end of your turn.
Yeah. For some reason, I was thinking in my head that they have charge and they sacrifice themselves at the end of the turn. But yeah, I got you. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I mean,
Minotaur
I think.
Tribal has like almost gotten there. Like I've kind of dabbled in this expedition. It was like very close to being a deck.
Mhm.
So maybe honestly they were a little worried that this would be too powerful. Like I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've tested it somewhat, and it's. I like the fact that it fits the curve very well, right? 3 is very doable. You're already getting above rate as far as the unit goes. And then, in Shadow, you're going to have reasons to kind of capitalize on the discard or get the copies back, right? That's the other thing, too, is the fact that you are going to put one of these in the void that you can get back later on. And then, 9 may be a little much, but 6 is very doable. So it follows the curve quite nicely. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
I
at
like this
6
card.
it enables itself because you have 2
Yeah.
Minotaurs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I like this card. I think it's solid. You're not gonna see it everywhere because it is very specific, both with double shadow pips and the Minotaur specific, but I like it.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I think it's going to be, a card I'll draft a lot. And I think there's like a chance that it makes it in like Expedition as well.
Yeah, Unleash is gonna be very interesting, especially in Throne. I had mentioned it in our Discord of just the potential market shenanigans that could go on, as well as various other things, because of the fact that it adds a card to your hand, right? These essentially, if you can capitalize on that extra card, can kind of cantrip you a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, super neat, super neat. I like it. I like it. This one's gonna be a spicy one for sure. And for there's definitely some Minotaur tribe people out there. They're gonna be. I think this is gonna be a nice inclusion to that, for sure. Sweet, man. Well, with that being said, it is time for our final pack one pick one for Cold Hunt. And I know there's something to talk about this one. I don't think it's completely busted because of our rare that we'll get to in a minute, but at least in the meantime, I think it's got some spice to it. So starting off with the commons, we have Ritual Dagger, which is the +2/+2 weapon for 3 shadow. Summon, you may sacrifice another unit unit other than the wielder to give the wielder +2/+2, so essentially +4/+4. Thunderrock's Ruse is the 3 primal fast spell. You play a 5/5 snowman that sacrifice at the end of your next turn or when it deals or is dealt damage. Twin Flame Brood, whatever. Warrior Monk is the 6/5 warrior mystic for 6 time. Overwhelm and Contract 5, you gain 5 life. Indifference, which is the 1 Xenon fastball. Choose one of your units. It can't die this turn. Graviturgist, which is the 1/4 mage for 4 Praxis. Flying Endurance and Contract 3, give Graviturgist +3 attack and charge this turn. Warning Shot, the 0 red inscribed, deal 1 damage. And Hoof Stomp, the 5 fire spell, Overwhelm, deal 5 damage to a unit without Overwhelm. So John, what do you think about these commons, man? What are you looking at here, bro?
These are not very, like, as far as pack one pick one goes, these are not the commons I'm looking for. I think, Monk is always fine, but like if time's open, you can get any number of these you want, I think. And it's a low priority for me. Hoof Stomp is probably like the best card like in an average case, but I think, if I had to pick one of these, and it's my pack one pick one, I might even just start with this stupid Warning Shot because it has the word, right? Inscribe.
Yeah, I think I would be looking at Hoof Stomp because I think you're right. In this format, time has no shortage of top end, so I think Monk has had his time in the sunlight, but right now he's competing against some very strong stuff, especially a bunch of stuff with Inscribe, as you so mentioned. All right, Alex, sending it over to you for the uncommons. We have Realize Your Potential, whatever. Let's move on. Stormblast, I've seen some people play. It is 2 primal. It's a fast spell. Deal 4 damage to an enemy unit or site played this turn, or negate an enemy spell with cost 4 or less. And Kurox's Hunt. This is a slow spell for 3 Elysian. Give a unit killer, and then Winvoke Elysian. What do you think, Alex? Is Kurox's Hunt going to take over any of these commons for you?
Yeah, pretty much. That would be the pick.
Yeah, Winvoke is still powerful.
Yep.
So, with that being said, since that was kind of an easy one, tell me, is this rare good enough as a pack one pick one for you to take over the Winvoke that's slightly easier to cast? This is Eadra, Twisted Brewer. This is the 3/4 shaman for 4 double Feln. When an enemy unit attacks, its health becomes 1. When an enemy unit blocks, its attack becomes 1. What do you think, man? Is this too risky or too much upside worth the risk?
I like it. I think I would take a Daria here. Pack one, pick one. Has enough upside. Just wrecks your opponent's board state that they think they have. So yep. I think I'm on Twisted Brewer.
John, do you concur?
Oh, I agree. Iadria is one of the most obnoxious cards. Like, even when you're winning with it, you just feel like a jerk. It's super good.
Yeah, I agree. It's, once again, we've talked about it a million times on this show now. It feels like where you pack one, pick one is the least educated pick that you're gonna make, and go for the high value play. It may or may not make your deck, and obviously Yadra is very clear cut whether it makes your deck or not. Right? You want to definitely be in Felon to play her. I think it's very difficult. Well, maybe not. This format did cater quite a bit to splashing, so maybe you could still splash her, but yeah, she's insanely powerful. It's definitely won a couple of awards, as we'll get into here in a moment, but the power level is definitely there. Yeah, even
Yeah.
over Windvoking.
Like, even like as late as this week, right? We're like 6 months into this format. Like, I'm still drafting a lot. I've really enjoyed this format, and like I had like 2 decks with Yadria this week, and there like in the last run I had with her, there was at least 2 opponents where like you could see them hovering over the card and reading it, and then like they still wouldn't play correctly. Like, it's like they had some I can't remember exactly, but it's like when they attacked, their unit got some kind of health buff or whatever. Like it's like they're like setting their units in to die without realizing it, right? Because it's like it's such a weird mechanic in the way, like the timing of when the health and whatever gets modified and stuff. It's like even if you read the card, you can still misplay around it pretty easily. And yeah, I almost felt bad. Like it's not even like you're getting them with a combat trick. It's like they're just getting themselves by not understanding this kind of awkward game mechanic. So she's a weird one.
Yeah. Well put. Well put. Yep. She's yeah, it definitely forces you to make some interesting decisions. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and dive right into the Sunset Show, guys. Starting off with, if you could summarize the set in one sentence, what would it be? Mine is, how many Inscribe do I have? I mean, that was pretty much the default in deck building, right? You put your deck together and you're kind of deciding the last couple of cuts. You immediately go and search up Inscribe to see if you could play 15 power, what your fixing was as far as like, okay, where are most of my Inscribe colors at, so I can adjust my power base to it. And yeah, I mean, it was really the key mechanic of the set, in all honesty. Being able to play 15 power and still have plenty of power in your deck and plenty of gas just made it to where there were very few non-games in the set, which I think was absolutely fantastic. Alex? Or John in the meantime. Nope, there you go. What's up, Alex?
Sorry, I was muted there. I'm like very similar to you. It's actually, I mean, Inscribe is amazing, and I'm going to miss it. I mean, because it's not going to be around as much. So yeah, pretty much. I loved Inscribe, and because of that, I love this set. So yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good mechanic, man. I really hope they decide to make it evergreen, which I wouldn't doubt it. I know P. Sully is very big into drafting, and so I don't know. I kind of feel anything that adds kind of consistency, for lack of a better term, to the game, I think is a good thing. Even though that's one of the reasons why we play card games, right? Anybody can win any game due to variance. John, what about you?
Yeah, my sentence is greed is good. And I maximize my greed in this format. Like, I love playing super greedy, 4 and 5 faction piles, and just seeing if I can make it work, that kind of thing. I just love it, and I found that I had a lot of success with that. Like, so many times, especially in this latest iteration, it's like I'm coming out of pack 1, I'm like firmly, like, let's say Elysian, And then, my next pack, I open a Joe, and it's like, looks like we're splashing Double Stone Scar. Like, I'm just gonna make this happen one way or the other, like hell or high water.
Yeah.
And then I have an honorable mention. I always like a fun one here, and that's like, are we a deja vu deck? Like to perform a deja vu check. Like when I get past that card, it's like what I always like would just kind of want to play just because I thought that was a fun card. And occasionally I was actually a good deja vu deck.
Fair enough. I will give it to you. I never had to do that check myself, but pretty conservative drafter, as we already know.
I remember one time I was drafting with Alex, and I said that to him, and like he thought I was joking, but I was like deadly serious. And it turned out he was a deja vu deck, and it put in some work in that draft.
No, get busted. Nice. All right, next up, what turned out to be the best archetypes? For me, through and through, Rakano Captain decks, man. Like, I do acknowledge that in the second iteration, the Winvoke piles were definitely a very strong archetype, but once again, like I just mentioned, it's very difficult for me to pull off 4 and 5 color piles because I am just not that good of a player. But man, the good old Rakano Captain's deck, you can't go wrong with your curve stops at a 5-drop that pumps your entire team and comes back if your opponent tries to deal with it. So the old Rakano Captains was probably my favorite, and what I felt was really strong. Like, sometimes you just ran over your opponent, get in that early aggression, and when they think they kind of stabilized, you pump your team, and they're like, oh my god. John, what about you, man?
So I think for me, the two best archetypes were open lane deck, where you just really figured out what the open factions were, and you just kept getting past really high power cards throughout the whole draft. Like, those are the times where I was willing to play like 2 colors or 2 colors and a splash. And then the other best archetype for me is the fixing plus all the best cards that I drafted. Like, I'd say Winvoke pile, but like there was many times during the format where what looks like a 4 or 5 faction Winvoke deck actually had like only 0 or 1 invoke cards. It was just like still just playing all these really good rares and uncommons and stuff. So yeah, fixing plus all best cards.
Fair enough. Alex, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, the 4 or 5 color tribal with or without Winvoke decks, kind of like what John described. Or also, if you can be in just 2 colors, you can get really focused decks because people are getting all the fixing and all the other stuff. So that if you're in the right 2 lanes, you can, be sad and play a 2 color deck because it's so easy to make a 4 or 5 color deck. So it was like usually where I ended up and usually like what everyone else was playing. So it's pretty easy to do with all the inscribe and fixing. So yeah, that's what I would say. That was the best archetype.
Fair enough. You advanced drafters, you. Going on to question number 3. What cards were you most wrong about during the set reviews? Which cards really surprised you one way or the other? So, man, some of these questions are always kind of tough for me to kind of identify. I would say I think Thudrock's Ruse was one of the ones that I was probably wrong about because I remember kind of not being like super high on it being kind of situational. But it turns out like playing 3 power to make a 5/5 means that it was borderline a straight up removal spell the majority of the time, and being able to flash it in at the end of your opponent's turn to get in for 5 when they weren't expecting it can definitely allow you to steal the games. So I'm definitely gonna go with Thudrock's Ruse. And then another one for me that I'm just gonna have to take you Gunner and your word for it, John, because I never played against or with this card, which is Ice Bully. We initially thought, I feel like we both said that it was kind of clunky because it was a 10/10 without any battle skills, so your opponent can just chump block it. But the cards come back, they get revenge. But from what you and John or Gunner said, it actually does a lot of work.
Yep.
So
yeah, I've played it and against it, and it always like plays better than it looked.
Yep. So, like I said, that one's gonna be my honorable mention because I'll take it from you guys because I definitely know we were like, oh, this is just a big clunky dude. So, Alex, what about you, man?
For me, it's Dangerbot, which I still hate, but I guess in the right deck, it's a pretty good card. but I hate it. And I was wrong about it. I'm willing to admit it.
Fair enough. John, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, for me, I like. I guess I'll say Trick Throw. I don't remember my rating on that one, but like it was a card that always overperformed for me in any deck I put it in, and when my opponents were doing it, it would often just completely wreck my board. And like at some point, they added cards to Expedition, and they added some like you know some additional spell damage matters kind of cards, and like it went up and up like and then they buffed Torque at some point, and like that helped it as well. Like it's just a card that always overperformed. And then another one I'd mention is Torgov's Wares, but like it's that one literally got buffed as well. So it's like it's not exactly fair because my review would change based on the buff. But like that was a card I felt like was basically unplayable, at the start of the set. And in this last iteration, I was happy to play two sometimes. Like I think I even played a deck with three one time. It's just like when you're playing a 4 and 5 faction pile, it's like an efficient way to filter out cards and draw gas that you can actually play. Because sometimes you're not going to believe this, but occasionally you got a card rotting in your hand because of your influence. So it can help you with that.
Yes, sir. What were the most underrated cards? So I threw Cloudline Shaman on here just because that card ended up being extremely busted, and I don't think we were that high on it. But I don't quite think. I think the other two that I wrote on here are a little more accurate. So I wrote Eavesdrop and Vermin's Feast, mainly because I think the fact that they have Inscribe means that they're kind of free to put, not free, but it's a lot less of a risk to put these cards in your deck. And making your opponent discard 2 random cards has never been completely busted. It's fine to put it in your deck, especially when they have the last 2 cards in your hand. But the combination of it having Inscribe, so it's power when you need it, then late game or even in the mid game, you can not only take your opponent's 2 removal spells or bomb out of their hand, but then it also steals their graveyard or their void, so you can play cards like that and stops their void shenanigans. Just turns out that the card ended up being extremely powerful, and you just had, anytime your opponent played Shadow on the other side, you just had to have Eavesdrop on the back of your mind and keep a power in your hand or something to kind of play around it. And Vermin's Feast is kind of on the same boat, where on the face value of it, it looks really clunky, right? You have to have a low cost, low statted unit. They have to have a high one, and you got to flip, and you gotta leave 6 power open. But man, that card ended up being a blowout at least half the time when you played it, if not more. So yeah, I think both those cards were very underrated in general until people kind of realized how solid they were mid point in the format, I feel like. John, what about you?
Yeah, those were good ones. I said like Indifference and Graviturgist. Yes. Like I think those were both, if you were in Xenon, if you were in Praxis, I think those were 2 cards you were like basically happy to have in your deck. Indifference would be plus or minus copies based on like how many forestalls I ended up with, right? But like, yeah, Graviturgist, anytime I ended up in Praxis, like with some captains, like 3 or even 4, like Graviturgist was like, that was a card that always was like kind of overperforming when I was actually playing it, right? It looks so medium, but getting in that burst damage, and then if you got captains in your deck, it's like a 2/4 with endurance and flying, or a 3/4 even sometimes. It's like it's just so solid at both attacking and blocking. It was a overperforming card. And Indifference, like it's like a Xenon counterspell basically, which also can just kind of work in combat too. It's like it was another one that anytime I actually had it in my deck, it just overperformed. And I think those were not, picked very highly by anyone. So
no, I agree with you. I think Indifference, Graviture's never really overperformed for me, but once again, I probably wasn't employing it correctly. But Indifference, yeah, that card always just felt like a blowout, man. Just it being 1 power to leave up was so easy to do. Yeah, I agree. Alex, what about you, buddy?
For me, and it was like even late in this format, I'm sure John saw it. I'm sure we discussed it. Like Calderan Captains were just going around like they were free, basically. And that's just a great card. And to the point where like you have 6 and you leave one on the bench, because I think 5 is like the max sweet spot for the captain that you would want in your deck. But yeah, I called Aaron captain, believe it or not.
Yeah, I definitely misinterpreted that thing as a sign all the time because I'm very high on it. So I would see it 4th, 5th pick. I'm like, oh man, fire is open. But some people didn't like it for some reason. What was the most controversial cards? We didn't really have a Thorncrawler in this set. So I think as far as from what I heard from the community during my streams and stuff, it's probably somewhere between Ramba and Inseparable. I thought Inseparable was pretty busted just because of the fact that you get 2 things back with the chance to buff them. But I got a lot of pushback sometimes on it. Well, I think the community was definitely not that high on it, feeling it was a little clunky. And then kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier with Icy Bully was Ramba, right? Ramba felt kind of busted, but I don't know. I think a lot of people, including you guys a couple of times, were like, So, yeah, I guess those are my 2 picks, Ramba and Inseparable. Alex, what about you, man?
So like this danger bot card, like is it good or is it bad? Like a lot of people just put it in their deck, like 1/1 for 2 that has revenge, like without any synergies. That's just not a good card. A lot of people thought it was. Yep, danger bot.
That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, I think that one definitely went back and forth in the community's eyes. What about you, John?
Yeah, I like Nascent Wisps. Like the number
Is
of
that
I kept
the
seeing people
2/1
play that.
charge?
Yeah, exactly. Flying charge, double pip. Like it's like it's a card that I just kept seeing, and yeah, I just think it's so bad. I think I don't think I ever played one in this whole format.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think I did either.
Like if it had, I imagine if it was a single pip, I'm sure it would have made at least one of my decks. But the double pip on that unit is just such a turnoff for me. I just refuse. And another controversial one I think is Diminish, because I feel like some people like actively like this card, and I think it's basically unplayable. So, like, just stop. I had one
Really?
person play like 4
I'm
of these
so
against
bad
me
that
the
I
other
love
day.
Diminish, man. I would jam like 2 of
Just
my
stop.
deck, no issue.
No, just stop.
Oh, that's hilarious. I was like, great. This thing is practically removed for 1. Yes. Oh, that's so funny.
Controversial.
Oh, man, that's too good. Yeah, I like Diminish, man. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't windmill slamming them, but they would go so late. I'm like, heck yeah. Free removal. That's so funny. That card was really bad.
I think it's so bad.
Jedi's like, justice is open, yes.
We're doing it. We're doing it. I don't have a single set of wings or curfew captains or find a moments, but I'm like, we got 3 diminishes. We're good.
No, like I said, somebody played 4 of these in a game against me the other day, and like obviously they just got wrecked. And like the only good thing was I got to use my curses emote, you know, in a humorous way, because they're curses, so that was nice. But
fair enough. All right, fair enough. That's why I'm just bad. What card had your favorite artwork? I'm going with the dragons here. Both Churgath and Zhou, Conqueror of Stonescar, I think had phenomenal artwork. Zhou just burninating the countryside, and Churgath being a giant ice dragon looked absolutely phenomenal, both standard and promo or premium versions. And then I want to throw an honorable mention because it was the tourney promo, right? The alternate art, but Searing Fist, man, the alternate art for the open was absolutely phenomenal. Just that golem, like literally fisting the screen, was freaking fantastic. So those are my I guess essentially top 3 artworks. What about you, John?
I picked Delef Free Profit. Like yeah, that just looking at that art kind of mellows me out a little bit. Like that dude just looks so content.
That's the one where he's chomping on the apple.
Yeah, he's like just getting super stoned on apples.
All right, this is a lot about you. Fair enough.
I don't know how it works, but those are some nice looking apples.
All right, fair enough, Alex.
I didn't know the apples were infused with something, but
They
let's
sure
see.
look like it.
Right, Bodian Rocks, because it's hilarious.
Oh yeah. I like
And
that one too.
then-
The farmer. Yeah.
Yeah, the whatever American Gothic copy, and then the Ice Giant Churgnoth is just. I always love the Ice Dragon artwork.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Good picks.
Next up, what were the best build arounds in the set? You know, I really feel like there's been a lack of build arounds lately in the last couple sets. I feel like this question has always kind of gone unanswered. But you guys got a couple, so maybe not. But there was a little bit of a sack deck, right? Stone Scar and Argenport kind of had a little bit of a sub thing in sack, but I don't know. I don't really think there was any kind of big build around on like a discard deck or anything like that. Alex, what about you?
I mean, once the draft pack got ridiculous and
I think you're muted. Did I? Wait a minute. Is it my sound that went off? Hold on. See you guys talking, so I think my sound just went bad. Gosh darn it.
that was
There we
weird.
go. All right, you're back. My bad. Yeah, I thought you got muted mid sentence, and then I looked and I saw the green circle around your Discord. Oh well, my bad. Sorry,
it's all
did I cut
good.
you off?
No, I just thought it was basically just saying like, you know, the Windvoke cycle, you know, or kind of build arounds if you get the fixing for it and just go with 4 or 5 color fun stuff. So that's kind of like a build around for me. And then, you know, I'll let John say the other one.
Yeah, I said Dangerbot. Like it was like kind of a build around with with like maybe the most support.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like there's a lot of incidental ways to grow the little guy, and like you could make a solid 7-win Dangerbot deck. I've seen many of them.
Fair enough. Was the set a Prince or Pauper set? I'm going with Peasant, man. The uncommons in this set were just absolutely ridiculous, right? We have the Windvoke cycle. We have I don't know if we came up with a name with it, but the ones where you can contract and then buff themselves or another unit. Those cards were all very powerful, right? Being deadly, charge, flying, lifelink, or lifesteal. All those were very powerful. So I'm gonna go slight audible and go with Peasant for this format. John, what about you?
I think I wrote an Alex's thing. Yeah, I don't know. Like, usually I have a clear pick. I think you're not wrong about Peasant, but I couldn't really lock it down. I just said it was pretty balanced. Like there was kind of very powerful cards at all rarities. More so, I guess, in the uncommons and the commons, but yeah,
I mean, there were definitely some rares that were bombs, but man, I just I don't think. And granted, I didn't draft this set as much as I normally do, but I don't feel like I was consistently looking at the rares. You know, a lot of times I was just kind of passing them for some busted uncommon or whatnot. So, and you know, in games, that's normally it was my opponent playing a Windvoke or something like that that really kind of ended it. But I could definitely believe it. I mean, we've talked about a couple already that were pretty busted, so I could see that as well. Alex, what about you?
So like it seemed like the decks that you had already built that were like built on good commons and uncommons, and then you got the rares for it was just like broken decks. Because I think overall it was basically a Pauper set with like driven by the commons and the uncommons. But if you got the good rares for the colors you were in, just like look out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But overall Pauper, I would say. Not like Peasant, but like Pauper's like the mix, I guess, the middle one. Yeah, that one.
All right. The It's a Bad card, but I love it anyways award. Man, this was another hard one because honestly all the cards I liked were good, but I guess Roosting Griffin, I always wanted to play it in my decks because when my opponents played it, it felt pretty busted. But man, the 7 cost on it was such a high price tag, especially with it not having Inscribe. So in all honesty, I literally don't think I ever played it the entire format. But man, when this card came down for my opponent, I was always like, oh gosh, what am I gonna deal with this thing? Because it just enabled so many attacks, and it being a 5/4 flyer made it one of the biggest things in the air. So yeah, I guess I'll go with Roosting Griffin. Alex, what about you?
The Hypnotic Elder. I love that old bird. But it's not a very good card.
That's what, the 2/4 that stuns a thing? Is that what that one is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For 6. plus
Okay.
contract.
Yeah, it's a horrible card. It's horrible.
Did you play it?
But yeah,
Oh, nice.
a couple
I don't
times it
think
was
I.
like needed a top end thing.
Huh. Cool. I did not know that. John?
I obviously, I obviously pick Orient Scepter for one of mine.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's terrible, but I love it. Just, nothing makes me feel like I'm doing it, like pushing that 9 cost button against a draft opponent.
Mm.
And then like one I would see, well, I guess more often, but man, people were passing these Arene Scepters like they were going out of style. But another one I would pick is Yeti Intellectual. It's like a lot of times it was pretty bad, but I just love the idea of it so much. And like sometimes it would play good. It needed a little support though. But like it's like one of those. It's like such an unassuming unit, and it would really force your opponent to play weird
Hmm.
sometimes. Like they would just make some wild decisions just to keep you from drawing those cards, which something probably makes sense. But
Did you ever put Star-Kissed Wings on it or no?
yeah, like once or twice. Like I think, yeah, giving it evasion. Like I think more than Starkist Wings, I would give it flying with like Teriak's mount.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. Yeah,
But like
that's
literally
nice.
just playing it alongside like efficient removal
Mhm.
or maybe some combat tricks like was really good. Like if you're in Huru, you can just play a bunch of find the moments or whatever, and every time you attack, they're like, surely he doesn't have another one. It's like boom, you just get them with combat trick, after trick, and each time you do that, it turns the trick into a cantrip basically. So like if you had support for it, it was actually kind of solid. But if you were
Okay,
just
yeah.
short on playables and it's just in your deck, it's a sad little Yeti.
Gotcha. I literally never win with it, but it always seems to beat me card. Kick Flip Monk for me. Gosh, man, that 2-drop. I felt like every time my opponent played it, it either completely shut off all my. I had like a ton of revenge that I could play, or like the 1/4 or 2/4 body was relevant. I couldn't get through it, and I have a removal. Like, God, that card wrecked so many of my games. And whenever I played it, it just felt super underwhelming on my side of the board. So Kickflip Monk for me. John, what about you?
So I'm trying to think of what you could have been doing wrong with Kickflip Mom. Were you always inscribing it?
Oh yeah,
No.
it does have inscribed, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, like that card was always so good. But interesting. Yeah, I picked Magnetize. Like anytime I put that in my own deck, it's like it would just get, it's like pay 3 to stun, and then it would just get sacked or brigade hauled or whatever. It's like my opponents just shrugged it off. And then when someone would play that on me, it's like I got 3 weapons in my hand or whatever, and one of them I needed to inscribe, and it won't even let me inscribe the stupid rune sword or whatever because that's just apparently how it works. Like I reported that as a bug. They were like, "Yeah, we'll look into it." It's still there, so it must not be a bug, right?
Mm.
It's so annoying. It's like, I'm playing my no sacks, no brigade hall deck, and I'm playing like a bunch of random weapons, and it's like boom, turn 3 magnetize, and I'm just sad the whole game.
Womp womp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always bad when I put it in my decks. Like it just it's just one of these cards, like so much.
Alex, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, like I'll never win with it and always beats me. And like, I mean, I always have a card that I like always say a lot in these shows, but Danger Bot, like, I'm just not willing to go all in on that strategy. Like, so that's why it's never going to happen for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I can understand that one.
But usually I put things in my deck to help beat that deck, like just even little board wipes or whatever, because it's so annoying to me.
I mean, we joked about it a lot, but it's like when there's no card for your deck in the pack, we're hate drafting the danger bot,
Yeah, I've done it. Like, take it so better up can't get it or whatever.
right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. What was my opponent played this, so now I must quit Eternal Forever card? Talk the Alarming? think I had it played against me one time, and I was just like, what? And I was hoping they had some kind of synergy, but they didn't. It was just, yeah. Talk the alarming. Alex, what about you?
When my opponent played that against me, it usually was like someone that was good, and I was terrified, to be honest. But for me, it was Stoke Ambition, and thank you to any opponent that played that for me because I usually needed a different color power or something.
Which one's Stoke Ambition?
Your
Two,
primal,
there you go.
transform a card in hand of choice, right? Into
Oh,
a
okay, gotcha.
sleep
Yeah, yeah.
power.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. John, what about you?
So you guys picked great ones. Although like talk, if you could support talk, it was good. Like one time during the format, I played a talk deck and it was good. Like the talks were good.
Yeah, that's what I
Um,
meant. If I came across John and he played a talk, I would,
yeah,
be very
like
scared.
it required a lot of support to make it good, but like occasionally it could come together. Stoke Ambition, yeah, it was always terrible. For me, it was Disciplinary Studies, which
Which
is
was
like
that one?
it's like the two-time relic that has like contract. I don't know what the contract number is, but each opponent draws a card. It's like the effect that the relic has is like whenever the cursed player draws an additional card, increase its cost by like 2 or something.
Oh, people actually played that against you?
Man, so many people like I saw it, it shocked me every time someone played this card against me. I'm like, free win. Like, in fact, one time this week, someone literally played it and didn't contract. I didn't know that was possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like every other time they at least contracted it, and I'm like, okay, whatever, guy. Like, but yeah, somebody this week literally just played it, and they're like, I got you.
Yes, you did. Fair
Like,
enough. Yeah.
never lost.
What was the biggest groan test? Or in John term, oh my god. Mine were pretty easy on this one. Either Hojin or Yadra. I think anytime either of those cards went down, because your opponent just didn't even need to attack with them. They just played them, and you're like, great, how am I going to get past this? So those two were my biggest groan test for sure. John?
Those are good. Sometimes when I had this in my deck, there'd be a board state where I could attack with the Adria or the Hojan, and it's like you just feel like you're flexing on them at that point. It's so nice. Um, for me, it was like a Joe I couldn't deal with, like an
Mm-hmm.
uncontested Joe. Like that's just like, oh, this is just gonna kill me. It's like such inevitable. Um, if you can't deal with it right away, you're just going to get wrecked. Another one,
Oh,
somebody did
yeah.
this to me like yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind, is like the whole Kuno plus pull from duty loop. Like, oh, that's so annoying. Um, and then an honorable mention to getting eavesdropped out of my mind.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Oh god, the eavesdrop at the wrong time. You're just like, oh god, this is so bad. And then of course after that, they once again triumphant return or inseparable and get back like the best things, and you're just like, shoot me now,
Yep.
Alex.
Getting like back to back double eavesdropped and losing all your cards is a horrible thing to do and a horrible thing to experience. But for me, it was just like chaining of Winvoke cards, and as much as I played the decks, I'm pretty much over the multiple back to back Winvokes and all these crazy cards. Yeah, too much Winvoke. So I'm glad this set's kind of over.
Fair enough. What was the most frustratingly bad card to lose to? What card will you not miss playing against? What card really annoyed the crap out of you? Once again, going back to that, I didn't play this format as much. I don't really think there was any card in particular that, I guess Eavesdrop maybe is the card that I probably won't miss playing against, right? Just having the sandbag power or like play around something like that is just kind of annoying, especially when it's a free slot in your opponent's deck. But I would say the most frustratingly bad card to lose to is probably Zoltan Ambassador. There just wasn't enough hero support in a limited format, I think, for this card to be good. But every once in a while, my opponents would play it and they draw like a card or two. I'm like, what's going on here? I'm like, I don't want to spend a removal spell on this thing. So I don't think I really lost to it, but there definitely been every once in a while where opponent looked like they might have gotten some serious value out of it. But I don't know. I think even drawing 2 cards is just fine off of it. It's not even busted or anything like that. So yeah, Zoltan Ambassador for me. Alex?
Like the most frustrating bad card to lose. I didn't even know the name of it. I put 1/1 draw card when you play a hero guy.
Yeah, Zoltan
Yeah,
Ambassador.
Yeah, that guy. Obviously, he's not doing a good job with his job. Like, yeah, that
that's kind
guy.
of funny.
I don't even think I lost, like you said, to someone playing this card. I might have, but this one I wasn't scared of if they played it. Unlike Talk. If they played this one, I was like, okay, whatever, thank you. You know.
Yeah, John?
I think Alex had some more on that one with the.
Oh,
I
yeah,
How
you're
was
I
right.
it
just
I'm
did it in
sorry.
order. Sorry, I thought we were just doing the one. And then let's see. So what I will not miss playing against is Windbug. Needs to die down a little bit. And then Idaria, like, was just annoying as all get out.
Yadria.
Eladria, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've mentioned it a couple of times already, and ironically, it was our pack one pick one, which was not intentional. But yeah, that card is just so difficult to play around because you have to read it 20 times, and you're like, okay, when does what effect happen, and how do I play around this? And yeah, I feel you on that. Thanks for keeping me honest, John. What about you now?
Yeah, bad card to lose to for me is Lethari Trapper, which is like just Danger Bot's like dumber younger cousin or whatever. Um, I'm sure I lost that at least once. Like somebody played it on like turn one, and like by the time I dealt with it, it was like a 7/1 or something stupid. It's like, oh my god, I'm literally dying to this thing. Um, Card that I will not miss playing against is Vermin's Feast. Like I think that card blew me out of a game more than any other card this format.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you kind of saw it coming, it was just like sometimes impossible to play around. It's like I don't know. That was just a rough one. You mentioned it earlier. It's like a free card in their deck too. And then card that really annoyed the crap out of me was Tensky Saboteur. Uh, like it's just one of these like mill cards where it's like it always seems to be milling exactly what you needed to draw, like that sort of thing. So
Yep, it's like
annoying.
it's the Wretched Raven of the set.
Yep.
Yeah, trust me, it doesn't take much to sell me on these incidental mill cards because it's exactly that. You're like, oh, this card is fine. I just need to draw, this my third influence or whatever, and it mills your third influence every time. Or like, I have 3 removal spells for this card, and it mills your removal spell. You're just like, what the heck?
Yep.
What was the bombiest bomb? What was the card that you hope to open in pack one? Pick one in your sealed pool or league, I should say. Man, I don't know. This was another tough one. Is the Guardian Angel in this set, or was that for
No,
another
it's
set? The 5/5?
it's in the draft packs.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Probably Joe, man. I felt it's very difficult to play, but gosh, that felt like such a good card, right? Because you can kind of run it out, even if you think your opponent had removal because it had revenge. If it gets in there, it'll kill your opponent shortly. Of course, it has a fireball effect as well. So, like, I mean, the card just kind of did it all. I was really happy to open up a Joe, I think. John, what about you?
Yeah, you already said Joe, so I'll go with Big Hojan with Inscribe, also known as HoDaddy.com.
Yep. The cool thing about Hojin is just the fact that it cards that were already good were fine, no big deal. But then all your 2-drops and 3-drops that didn't quite make the cut, and if you had pump spells in your deck, could just all of a sudden be real players just by Hojin sitting on there. It definitely forced your opponent to make some plays to try to get aggressive and get you dead before you came back. So yeah, I agree with that. Alex?
For me, it was and this is because you could see these pretty often, would be a Hojan or an Expedition Gear.
Yeah, good call on the Expedition Gear.
Mhm.
Gosh, that card. Ugh. That card definitely had a good way of changing the game around for sure as well. All right, what's the best common for each color? And the best multicolor card. So I guess we could just go down the line. Fire is Captain, which it looks like actually all 3 of us got it, so fair enough. For time, I went with Beta, but both of you guys went for Stall, so I agree with you. It's a combat trick with a cantrip aspect of it, so I think that's solid. Justice, we all went with Find the Moment because that card is just too good. Primal, I went back and forth, and then finally just went with Eagle because I like the fact that it was a beater, it was a evasive unit with Aegis, and it was inscribed. But both of you went with Cloric Mix, which was the card that I was going back and forth with, so I can roll with that. And then Shadow, let's see, we have Call the Hit for me. We have Shadow, Cabal Embezzler for John. And then Alex went with Midnight Hunter, which I thought Midnight Hunter was going to be higher for me because I really like that card. But there were some decks where I just didn't want it, surprisingly enough. So I think all three of those are solid picks for sure. And then that's actually, this was a tough one too. The multicolor, I went with Stonebreaker Bow. Stonebreaker Bow. John went with Unseen Marksman, which was definitely in consideration for actually all three of these cards.
Right.
And then Alex went with Breach the Defenses, which were all absolutely great cards. And ironically, they were all 2-drops. So go figure. But yeah, I mean, all three of these cards overperformed in their respective decks for sure. Unseen Marksman, 3/3 above rate, as well as being able to ping off a lot of things, either post-combat or pre-combat. Stonebreaker Bow just being a huge beat stick and removal, and then Breach the Defenses. I mean, yeah, just fast speed removal is always sweet, especially in the Rakano deck. Going to the best uncommons for each color. See, for fire, we went with Dasher Jeering Yeti, John. Really?
Yep.
What? Oh, shoot. So is Alex. Okay, did I just miss? What was it? The fact that it was a 3/1 for 2, or you can scribe it? Is that what it was?
It was a 2-drop that did it all. Like, for me, it was between Yeti, and honestly, it was between that and Looting over Dasher. Like, Dasher was a close third, I guess, but those Fire and Scribes were just always so good for me. Like, the Yeti was one that I was like so happy to play as, like, you know, a fire source in my 4 or 5 color deck, even though it's just a stupid 3/1 for 2. That's like basically like a 2 cost cheaper Molten Feet, right? It's just like, and Molten Feet was one that always overperformed as well. Just like anytime your power can be a dude, man, that always felt so good. Fair
enough. Going for time, ironically enough, same thing. I had a top 2, which was Legacy and Cloud Scraper. Both of you guys went with Cloud Scraper, which I think is right. That card was just great. It got rid of a threat that you cared about, and it was a beater on itself, and it had Inscribe. Legacy, just getting 3 units off of 1 card seemed powerful to me. For Justice, all 3 of us went Brigade Hall, and I think that's pretty even across the board. I think that was definitely one of the most powerful cards in the set as a whole. Going into Primal, I have Shaman, and then both of you guys went with, right? Did Alex go with Mount? And
yes.
You went with Mount as well. Yeah, which, once again, was definitely a top consideration. I actually think it probably does take the cake because Evasive, you know, adding Evasion to any unit ends up making it more powerful, and that's a lot easier to cast than Shaman. But I think Shaman was definitely powerful. When I finally did get to play with that, I realized how powerful that card was for sure. Shadow, I went with the Wisp. You went with Victimless Crime, which, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and so did Alex. And then, once again, I feel like that definitely shows the difference of how much I've played the format versus you guys, because you guys were very close together versus me being a little off. But yeah, I guess very efficient removal seemed pretty good. I will say, though, the one downside I saw with Victimless Crime when I played it is that half the time, or not half the time, but at least a third of the time, the card that you really wanted to get rid of was like an Adra or a Hojin, which you couldn't with Victimless Crime. But I think just it being so much more efficient, the majority of the time definitely puts it up there. And then, you know, clear cut across the board for the multi-faction uncommons, we all just went with the Windvokes. Alex, you did add Icy Hold on there, which I think is a solid pick as well. Wait, was Icy Hold is the silence or the kill?
Silence and stun for 4 fast.
Yeah.
The Hoover one.
Yeah, I like the fast ones. Those 2 fast ones a lot. It would be a hard pick between those 2, yeah.
Yeah, Augmentation is probably, I think, the strongest one, just because any Shadow Invoke is always normally a good one, unless you're me and you get the, when you hit your opponent halves their life total or whatever it is, the deadly 4-pip 0/0 weapon. I forgot what it's called, like Deadly Poison or something. But yeah, I think the Windvokes definitely take the cake, which they normally do. What was the strongest and weakest invokes? So I think Praxis was probably the one I saw the least amount of play and the most kind of situational one, right? Because even the Rakano one, the lifesteal on it, made it kind of relevant. John, you actually put Stolen. Oh, strongest. That makes sense. Yeah. I think Stolen Augmentation is definitely the strongest one. Once again, it just being able, the easiest one to make into a removal spell. And Justice and Shadow Invokes can rarely go wrong. And then Rumba's challenge being the Praxis one as well. Alex, do you have any more input on that?
I'm pretty much like right on with John on that, except for like I'm torn between augmentation and hold as my favorite.
Fair enough. John, anything to add before we move on?
Nope.
Cool. Next up, what's the mythic uncommon for the set? Man, and I feel like Brigade Hall was up there for me, and I honestly don't know why I didn't pick it. I think I wrote Shaman, but I think you're right. I think Brigade Hall just has so much more upside just because of the flexibility of it, right? It could break stuns. It can make any of your guys into beaters. It could get your big card in there. It gives you a power sync later in the game, gives you a body on curve. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think it is Brigade Hall over Shaman. Maybe close but clear, if I can quote another podcast. But, yeah, I think definitely Brigade Hall is the most busted one. That card, you were just super happy to see it. And it went in, right, because it's only a single pip, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I think that definitely puts it. It's Brigade Hall.
Yeah, and like I think the next closest one for me would be Cloud Scraper, like because it's so powerful. Like it's like it does it all kind of like Brigade Hall. Plus, it has the word, right? It inscribes as well.
Yep, fair enough. What's the worst card in the set? The biggest blank, the most last picked. Keep your distance. I mean, that card was. I don't think I'm far-fetched to say 95% of the time it was the last card left in the pack. Card was. I don't think I've ever even seen it played whatsoever. John?
Yeah, I 100% keep your distance. I definitely saw it played at least once, but it's just so bad. It, like anytime there was like a few cards left, it's like we were all keeping that meme alive, like making sure it would kind of go to be the last card in as many packs as possible. I think a lot of other drafters were on board with that. And then honorable mention to Imburden, which is another one I saw played, I think, a single time.
Yeah, I think it saw some play at the beginning of the format, and then people just stopped playing it.
Yeah.
Which card was the most begrudgingly playable? For me, it was Mithril Guardian. It made the cut because it has Inscribe on it, but I don't know. I just don't like walls. I feel like it's too easy. I mean, granted, when my opponent plays them, I feel like they save them a billion life, and when I play them, they just kind of run over them with a deadly unit or like a cheap pump spell that hits two things, and I don't really feel like I got my worth out of it. But I mean, it was fine. It did work, and I wasn't happy about playing it, but I was never super disappointed about playing it either. Alex, what about you?
For the begrudgingly playable,
yes,
it would be any of the bad Winbow cards. Like, for example, the one that's 1 yellow and kills a attachment that costs 4 or less, which kills Brigade Halls, by the way. I did that
You
today.
mean Inscribe?
Inscribe. What did I say? I'm sorry. I do apologize. Not Winvoke. Inscribe. Yes, the bad Inscribe cards. Okay, I said bad Winvoke. That I didn't catch that. Yeah, bad Inscribe cards. Which like the 1 damage for 0 red, like that. Like it's begrudgingly playable, but it's still just like a power, So that's my take on that.
All right. For me, it would be Hypnotic Elder. Like just looking at the art on that card just kind of pissed me off, but it made a handful of decks for me. Is like I was just getting too greedy drafting powerful spells and just ended up a little short on units that I didn't quite get to the number I would prefer to play. So yeah, made a deck every once in a while, begrudgingly, whatever.
Fair. Is there a card you will miss drafting? Starkist Wings. I don't know. I liked that it was inscribed so you could play early. Later in the game, it buffed, had a little bit of a stat boost to cards and then added evasion later on. And you weren't kind of something like Feather. It always kind of, you got to figure out when to play it because it's so cheap versus Starkist Wings. It came down late enough where you normally had a good spot. They may have burned their removal already by that point. So I don't know. I like that card. I think it was kind of flexible and gave you some decisions as well as insurance policy. So I'll miss drafting it. John?
Yeah, I picked Find the Moment.
Another good one.
I just love playing that card. I love the sound it makes when you know, wreck your opponent's whole plan or whatever they were doing. It's like that. I don't know if it's the contract sound. It probably is. It's like a swing. Like, just felt like I was just wrecking them every time I was playing that card.
Yeah, that is a sweet card. Not gonna lie, I'll take as many of them as I can.
Yeah, that was
Alex?
one like I felt like was like I could get as many as I wanted early on in the format, and I found like those were much harder to find as the format went on. Which
Mhm.
I thought was kind of odd because I didn't really see him played that much against me. It's like, but somebody's drafting all these find the moments.
Yep. You are not wrong, my friend. That's a great yes. You can get a ton of them at the beginning, and later on, definitely was significantly more difficult to get. Alex, what about you, man?
I don't know if I'm mentally prepared for there not being inscribed. I might need to go to rehab or something.
Yeah.
Fair. You're not
Therapy.
wrong.
Yeah. So we'll see how this goes here, guys.
Hopefully they end up.
Got a commission.
Yeah, like hopefully they are very boosted, like in these draft packs in the next format.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's gonna be kind of scary, man. It's been nice being able to play all your cards all the time.
Although, like there was a couple times where I like for whatever reason it's I think it was always a Rakano deck for me. It's like I forgot to draft inscribes. It was like the times where it was like a good inscribe choice. It was like that or
Mhm.
a fist or a captain or whatever, and I'm like, no, taking the captain, taking the fist.
Yeah.
And like yeah, I played like a handful of 17, 18 power decks, and like I think I did very well with every one of those because it was like the card quality was that's the reason I didn't have invokes is because I was getting past these amazing cards.
Mhm.
So like, it's just I just felt like bad doing it, but it's like, man, 18 power decks with good cards are still fine. Like I'm sure we'll recover.
Yeah, most def. Fair enough. What was the Johnniest card, the Jediest card, and the Darthiest card? So, the Johnniest card I think is definitely Stolen Augmentation. Like so much big brain play, so much value. It just, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I felt like it when I think of John, I think of sneaky high value plays. So I went with Stolen Augmentation.
Yeah, great one.
John, what do you think about for Alex?
Yeah, Battlefront Dasher. I think that's a good choice. It's like a very solid, aggressive one drop. It's like his style.
Yeah, I can roll with that. Going blades out in red definitely feels Alexy.
It's the one I've passed the most though, like because in draft I'm not so much always just raw, but definitely in constructed that is in a deck that I play every single day, a Dasher. But yeah, so okay, I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
Fair
and then
enough.
for Jedi here, I don't know, like Jedi always just seems like he wants to be smashing people, so I picked Ramba, like maybe Searing Fist. I don't know.
I can roll with Searing Fist. Unfortunately I literally never played Ramba.
Yeah,
I
but it's
think
a,
I
it's
may
a
have.
Jedi card,
Yeah. All right, fair. I can roll with that. Yeah, I like big dirty things to just smash in there. I'm gonna beat you until you submit.
Yep.
I can roll with that. So yeah, I'm down for that. Definitely not high value plays for the Jedi for sure. I didn't have a soapbox card this go around. I don't think there was really a card when I was streaming that people were like, bro, why are you putting that in your deck? Or like, why are you not playing that? That I felt strongly about. So no soapboxiest card for me this go around.
Yeah, but like I imagine if you played more, it would have been Tensky Saboteur, right? Just because it gives off Sunset Priest vibes.
It does, but fortunately enough, I don't think it was played enough in this format. Where it definitely got me once or twice, but I don't think like Wretched Raven was just and Sunset Priest. Well, Sunset Priest was played on both sides of the field, so everyone was just like, "Why are you not playing it?" But Wretched Raven, I mean, it's a lot of play, so there was plenty of time for me to be like, "Oh my god."
Plus, usually the Saboteur just gets in there once because you're like blocking it immediately, even if it's a bad trade. Like, get out of here, Saboteur, with your crap.
Yeah.
Gonna come back. Boy.
Or you augment it.
Right.
Like
That's a good way to deal with it for sure.
So Yeah, that's probably what it is. It's just this format didn't have a high surplus of cards where it was just like WTF mate. If anything, it would, if anything, it would probably be the times I played 16 and 17 power, where people are like, "No, you could go down to 15." I'm like, "No." Um, all right. What card do you still have to read when it's cast against you? I mean, Eadra, right? I think we're kind of unanimous about that. We've talked about it already a handful of times on this show. It just you always got to remember which stat gets dropped based on whether it's attacking or defending, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah, it's not even
um,
necessarily when it's cast against me. It's like even when I'm playing it, and to be honest, it's often multiple times per turn. I like forget immediately. Before combat, I'll check. After combat, I'll check. I'm like, what is happening?
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, exactly. Uh, from a design and development aspect, how did this set fare? How were the mechanics, and what were some of the wins and the losses? I'll be kind of quick about mine because Alex, I'll let you talk about Inscribe. But yeah, I mean, the fact that you can play as few as 15 power and kind of still have plenty of gas to not miss in the format felt really good, right? They did a good job putting Inscribe all the way up and down the curve so you could play cards early or late. I thought the set was a home run. It never lost playability or interest, right? The format stayed very interesting the entire time. So yeah, it was just great. And I think there was a lot of depth to debt. So you did automatically contract every time, and sometimes you had to take consideration into your curve. So debt has a price for sure, as pun intended. All right, Alex, what about you, buddy?
So, Inscribe, we've talked about it a lot. It's just a great mechanic, throwing Inscribe on cards that you're going to want to play anyways. It also created all of like decision points in the game, even like when and where and how to play your power. Like, debt was like that too. You don't always do the contract. Sometimes you do the way you play your cards. It like just created a lot of decision points. Really fun draft format. I wasn't even tired of it really at the end. It like literally like over 200 drafts. I'm pretty sure. So like it was super fun. The Winvoke maybe like with the set with how powerful it was. Like the cards that were uncommon. If they were rare, maybe that wouldn't have been as like overbearing, I guess. But yeah, overall it was super fun set, and yeah, I would play it again if they released it or whatever.
John?
Yeah, like I think this might be my favorite draft set that they've done. So I think it was very well balanced color wise. So really good, really good there. Both the contract and debt and inscribe were both like solid. They both rewarded good decision making and deck building and punished bad decisions. So I think they were both great. Inscribe like full on home run mechanic. Um, and then yeah, I guess Windvoke, right? You either love it or you hate it. I loved it. So I've heard a lot of vocal hate for it as well, but like yeah, like that could that's probably the one thing that turned a lot of people off.
All right, number 25. What did this format teach you? I'll be honest. I was all over the place this format. I still stuck to my guns, and sometimes I felt like I was drafting fine, and other times I just got wrecked by people that really understood the format, right? I caught on to some of the tricks like forestall and things like that, but man, sometimes you just get wrecked sometimes, and definitely with the emergence of the 5 color decks and stuff, it makes it hard to play around things because they can literally play anything, and especially since a lot of those decks were stacking Windvokes, same thing. It's like, okay, did they roll high or roll low on this Windvoke, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's on me. John, what about you?
Yeah, it taught me the limits to my greed, and I discovered that there are none.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Alex, what about you, buddy?
Um, what it taught me. I don't know what it taught me. It taught me that I'm addicted to freaking Eternal. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sure.
I like it. Fair
and
enough. That's a winner.
I don't. That's like, and ever since they did the draft like payout change, it's been like a home run for me. I'm sure a lot of other people as well, because it seems like more people are playing. So that's a good
for
thing.
sure. For sure. Yeah, definitely a bonus on the draft change for sure. Favorite card in the format? Unseen Marksman, man. Like, it's Argenport, it's a 3/2 for 2. The -1, the permanent -1 to health is definitely relevant the majority of the time. So yeah, I like this little guy. And then plus it's a ninja throwing a shuriken, so why not, right? Or wait, I forgot the ninja term for the dagger, but yeah, a dart.
Kunai?
I like it. Huh?
A kunai?
There you go. Yes, thank you, kunai. Yes. John, what about you?
I picked Sweet Dreams. Like, I don't, if it was like a pack one pick one between that and like augmentation, I'd pick augmentation. But like Sweet Dreams was like the funnest and most powerful like win vote card you could play. Like if you had some sweet combo things to do with it, or like just cards in your deck that worked really well with it, man, you could really ruin people's days with it. And like the invoke pool, I think for Feln was pretty solid most of the time as well. It's just like setting up that, that Sweet Dreams play always felt so rewarding.
Yeah, big brain play for sure. Alex, what about you?
Rat King is dope. I love that card.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, good call. Good call. All right. And then finally, the wild card question, which of course Alex omits because he doesn't play with sound. What is the best voice line? For me, Cauldron Captain, man. It's just right up there with the bang. It's like, I don't miss.
I don't miss. Yeah, and then you kill the
miss,
one.
Actually, it's probably
and then it
I
comes
never
right
miss.
back, and it says it again. Ugh.
Actually, now I think about it, I think I rushed that. I think it is never miss. I think it's I never miss.
It's I don't miss. You got it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got it right. Okay, cool.
I don't miss.
It's so good, so good.
He does
what
it
about
best.
you, John?
It's always a hit. Well, I think Alex could honorable mention the card you just picked. Rat King has some solid ones. Probably doesn't know what they are, but yes, that's solid. I picked Wyatt Trashman.
I don't. Oh man, I'm gonna start playing with sound.
So Wyatt Trashman, it was like so much voice line value. Like it had Inscribe, and you even got a voice line when you played it as power.
Oh, no kidding? That's awesome.
Yeah. So the three are like, where is that blasted thing? And then let's see, like on attacks, I think he would be like, "Do you have it?" And then whenever he would die, he would be like, "There it is." Like,
I do remember there it is. That's awesome. That's freaking great.
Yeah. And then honorable mentions to like Zito and Kickflip Monk. Like, no, Kickflip Monk didn't get to attack very often, but man, when it does, it has that sweet like, yeah. It's like you just feel like you're probably like pissing off your opponent pretty good when you're attacking with your Kickflip Monk. And same with Zito.
Zito is great though. It's like the perfect cat one. Yeah, exactly. It's a perfect cat one because whenever you have to discard, you're like you annoying stupid cat. It's just looking at you like, wow.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there's a lot of good ones in this format. Like, I think they're upping their voice line game.
Yeah, which is definitely relevant for sure. All right, well, guys, that's it, man. That sets the sun on Cold Hunt, an absolutely fantastic format, both iterations of it were an absolute blast. Thank you, Direwolf, for continuing to pull out great mechanics and great sets. We're definitely enjoying it, and like Alex said, the draft changes have been absolutely phenomenal. Definitely getting our money's worth, pun intended. You guys rock. Thank you guys so much for listening into the podcast. We really appreciate you guys. Next one will be our common and uncommon set review, so the marathon one for the upcoming Unleash. So we'll see when that happens. Maybe do a shorter mechanic only episode before that. We'll see how they kind of play it out. Typically they line it up where they're pretty close together, but we'll see. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Really do appreciate you. Until next time, as always, happy gaming.
Unleashed hype.
Good luck in your draft queues, everyone.